evening, everyone. Welcome to another BMS talk. Well, what a BMS talk we have today. We have the Useful Plants and Fungi of Colombia project giving a fantastic group talk that is fully international. We have Esther Geyer from Royal Botanic Gardens Kew. We also have Ida Vasco and Viviana Matato, who are part of the Colombian Mycology Association. And combined, they'll be walking through and giving us a talk about the Useful Plants and Fungi of Colombia project and what it means. So I'm very excited. I hope you're excited too. Enjoy, and I'm going to pass over to Esther. Oh, Esther, you're muted.
Sorry. Thank you, Nathan. I'm sharing my screen now. Can you see it? Okay. Can you hear me well? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Fantastic.
Yes? Okay. I was just texting. Okay, good. So thank you very much for joining us. And as Nathan said, this talk is given by three different people, and we'll be covering different parts of this super project. It's a big project. The main PI is Mauricio Diaz Granados from Kew Gardens. And I'm going to give more the general overview of the project and the institutional view of the project. And Viviana and Aida will go into more fungi hardcore and data and information that we have gathered for the project. So I'm going to get on this Useful Plants and Fungi of Colombia. This is a project with different funders and different institutions being part of it. Newton, Caldas Fund, the Ministry of Sciences in Colombia, and British Council are the main funders. And the partners managing and organizing the project are Kew Gardens and Humboldt Institute in Colombia. So what does this project attempt? Its grand aim is understanding Colombia's useful plants and fungi to improve people's livelihoods, reducing inequality and gender gap by boosting its bioeconomy through the sustainable use of its biodiversity. So I will get into more detail in a moment, but this is the main mission of the project. And why Kew is involved in that? Well, if as a Kew representative, if we look at our mission, Kew's mission is to understand and protect plants and fungi for the well-being of people and the future of all life on Earth. And this project feels perfectly well and matches perfectly well our mission as partners in the UPFC. But why Colombia? And I think I don't need to add many words to this image. Colombia is the second most diverse country in the world after Brazil, and is in the top 5 for position for many groups of organisms, including mammals and reptiles, amphibians, plants, obviously birds, etc. Right? For example, for plants, Colombia hosts more than 26,000 species, of which at least 4,200 have useful reported uses. So where are the fungi in these top records? No, we don't have fungi. Fungi haven't been included in the list of organisms that appear in, for example, in the website of the CBD, Convention of Biodiversity. And I'm not gonna answer that question because we'll talk about it in a little bit, but just leave the question. What about the fungal diversity in Colombia? As you may know, Colombia is quite a country of extremes. Is the 4th largest economy in Latin America. His economy has been growing a lot for the last decade, and especially compared to other countries in Latin America. But still, Colombia remains the 7th country in terms of inequality. 1 out of 3 households are considered poor, and especially this is is predominant in rural areas. And you have this, that's what you have in here, this combination of high biodiversity, a mega diverse country with huge natural resources and complicated economy that has got better after the thanks to the benefits of the peace treaty, but still is problematic, and lots of people are considered under a threshold of poverty. So this project aims at basically tries to enhance nature contribution to people in Colombia. It's much as biodiversity research and in a way social sciences increase in other times to increase and consolidate knowledge in Colombia's useful plants and fungi, and trying to make it accessible for the benefit of particularly local communities. Also aims at promoting a market for underutilized native species and their high value natural products. I will give an example in a moment. And also tries to encourage the conservation and sustainable use of biodiversity. So these are the three main core objectives of UPFC globally. And the work is divided in 4 packages. The package 1 is the basic one, continue gathering information on useful plants and fungi. Work package 2 is about disseminating the knowledge. Work package 3 is focuses on developing a value chain network for creating sustainable value chains. And work package 4 is focused on implementing that value chain network. So this is quite a neat and well organized plan for this project. The thing is that for plants, this is very well organized, because I didn't mention that earlier. For plants, there was already background-based knowledge from a project called Planta that Mauricio had developed in previous years. So they had already developed the knowledge on plants and had the knowledge on plants was there, but they had synthesized the knowledge and had concentrated all the information. For fungi, guess what? That information was spread across the country in different institutes and groups of research groups. But the main focus of fungi in this project had to be devoted to work package 1, obviously. But that work has been done in collaboration with many institutions and many mycologists from Colombia. The Association of Colombian Mycologists has been directly involved, but also many universities and research institutes, because obviously this has to be a root project, and all these scientists and researchers in Colombia have been working over the years. But I think this project was a good platform to unite the researchers and also the information that was already there available but hadn't been synthesized. So as I said, what about fungi? At the very beginning of the project, there was these tables that were gathering the information on categories of plants and fungi based on traits and based also on numbers. And I just put these 2 tables here to just give you an idea of what is the situation. Obviously, we don't have cultivated or naturalized fungi, but if you compare plants and useful plants versus fungi and useful fungi, you will see immediately the figures that are quite strikingly different. And that's why I mentioned that earlier, that we had to focus mostly on work package 1 on increasing the knowledge of fungi in Colombia. As you can see, in the first figures, we only had 1,264 recorded native species and only 25 useful fungi species. And in terms of numbers, this has been now updated to 7,241 fungal species for the country. But again, look, 28,000, more than 28,000 species of plants, 7,000 useful plants, and versus 374 4 species of fungi. So one of the aims of this project was to try to improve these numbers. And as I said earlier, it's not that we were creating new information. Information was there, and for example, this is this attempt of a checklist of Colombian macrofungi led by Aida Vasco from 2013. The problem was that, as I said earlier, the information on fungi was scattered, and the main outputs of this project from the fungal side, I'm going to show them in the next slides. The main one is this one that Aida will give you a few examples when she talks. I'm just mentioning it. Is the Fungi page that basically gives you information about all the accepted species that have been recorded for Colombia. The site was launched in July in this summer, and it has got quite a lot of visits already. So we have the equivalent also for plants. We have the Col Planta page. It's identical to the fungal one. And the next output, the second output, is the catalog, the checklist, the catalog of useful plants and fungi of Colombia. On the left, put the plants, but I highlighted in red the fungal catalog. And in the catalog includes, Aida again will give you more detail in that. I just put this to give you an idea. Apart of the information of the species, localities, and synonyms, etc., you will have a QR code per species that will contain all this information, so you can read immediately just using QR codes to know the species that are contained in the catalog. So it's a different way to access the same type of information. The catalog is not only the checklist. As you can see here, it says 16 chapters. It's because it's a combination of a book. So it will come up as a book with 16 chapters, tackling different topics of fungi on Colombia. So what we did is, just as I said earlier, we put together all the expertise of Colombian mycologists, and they have covered the different areas that have been researched until now. And more than 40 authors. And the next product, and we're a bit far away from that for fungi, but that's I hope that this image, these mostly plants, will also contain some examples of fungi. Is a platform for the value chain network that I mentioned earlier, that basically will connect knowledge with producers, not knowledge of biodiversity with producers. And also a guide to develop and commercialize natural ingredients from non-crop plants and also fungi from Colombia. So these are the four products: the websites, the catalog, and the value chain network, and the guide for this chain network. So now getting into fungi more in detail. As I said earlier, Viviana and Aida will give you more details. I'm just going to cover the information that we have gathered on uses of fungi, because we don't have high numbers of fungi, but we still have information about them and their uses. So this figure shows, it's quite interesting because it gathers numbers of species that have reported uses in Colombia, but compares it with the same species globally. As you can see, you have some differences here. In some cases, there's more uses in Colombia, and in most cases, the species are more globally used than in Colombia. So there is an underutilization of fungi in the country. Basically, that's the message. Here's the same information, but categorized, but just showing the categories that are mostly where they are mostly used. So there's a dominance of uses of fungi as food, and obviously followed by medicines. But this again is interesting because I think that changes, depends on the countries, but Colombia, the knowledge and the uses of even as food comes mostly from indigenous indigenous communities, from traditional uses of fungi. So it's not something that is so well spread in for example in urban areas. So they are mostly eaten in rural areas. They are also used in as for environmental purposes, but this category is mostly covered by lichens. There's big groups of lichenologists in Colombia that use lichens as bioindicators mostly. And obviously biotechnology, there's some species covered by technology, materials, biological control, and social uses. Here, I don't know if you see well, because it's an image, it's quite small. It shows the same type of information, but we try to. This is one of the figures on of the book that we put in together, and it gathers the same information, but by order. We wanted to see if the uses were also spread. They covered larger diversity of fungi. Again, it's still a bit patchy, and there's more diversity, for example, in food than in other uses. Here I put a couple of examples of fungi that are being used in different ways. As I said earlier, there's not so much industry, but there's a lot of traditional information and traditional uses of fungi that the project is trying to gather and to compile. Here you have an example of Podaxis pistillaris that is used by the Wayu indigenous community as a sunscreen and cosmetic, and also lentinus species that is used by the Uitoto and the Moinanes people in the region of Paquetá. So I think that's quite interesting that this type of information that, again, as I said, was scattered. We have some of the Colombian mycologists are in contact with native communities, indigenous communities, are trying to gather this information that sometimes is quite locked away because some of these people are quite suspicious of people coming for this type of information. So this is done quite carefully and obviously respectfully. Here's another example. This is species Lentinula raphanica, and for the project our colleague Tatiana interviewed this woman Fidelia, that actually it's not called Fidelia, it's called Huigacuri, from the Uitoto ethnic group in the Colombian Amazon, and they use Lentinula raphanica for different purposes. They use it for medicinal uses, as a pain reliever, but also obviously as a food source to replace protein from fish or from meat, because with increase of population in the areas, there's less accessibility for that type of protein. And here, this slide, what shows is we did a bit of screening about the diversity of fungi, but based on fungal lifestyles. And interestingly, the most abundant ones are the symbiotic fungi, followed by the composers, by saprotropes, which are keen on nutrient recyclers. Endophytes, for those that don't know what endophytes are those fungi that live inside plants but are asymptomatic, and they're very, very relevant on biotechnology. and then pathogens. Well, actually, pathogens would be in third position. I think this shows quite, again, the patchy knowledge that we have on Fungi of Colombia, because, for example, mycorrhiza, there's only 6% of mycorrhiza species recorded. That's not, obviously that's not a real figure, because 6% of mycorrhiza, no, it's not possible. It's obviously an under recorded group of nutritional mode, because they're obviously predominant. And then we also organize this. I'm just giving you some hints and information that you have to look at the book when we release it soon. That is just an appetizer of the contents that you can find, of the information we have gathered. There's the same trophic modes, but only for useful fungi, for fungi that have been used for different reasons in Colombia. And obviously the Saprotrophs is the dominant here, because most fungi used for food are the ones that are saprotrophic. I'm almost done. I will just pass quickly, and just a couple more examples of the things that you may find in the project and in the book that we're putting together. For example, is information about biogeography of fungi in Colombia. I'm giving here an example of polypores. Again, this information was totally scattered, and if Aida and colleagues have done a great job at compiling all the information. And just to finish, and pass it to Viviana, just put it on an image of an entomopathogenic fungus, because Colombia is a star on is top beef, even beats Brazil in number of species on entomopathogenic fungi. And actually 10 of the 89 species that are recorded in Colombia were actually described from Colombia. So I think that's for me, that's a paradigm of the potential power and diversity of fungi content in this country, and that still remains to be unraveled. And I'm gonna give it the word to I'm gonna stop sharing, and I'm gonna let Viviana talk now, because I think I talked a bit too much. Sorry. And Viviana is gonna give us quite interesting numbers about fungi in Colombia. Viviana, I'm gonna go mute now and let you.
Okay, I'm going to thank you very much, Esther. I'm going to share my screen now. Okay. Are you seeing? Esther, sorry, are you seeing my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, perfect. Sorry.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
hello everybody. It's great to be here. I am really excited to have this opportunity to talk about the diversity of Colombian fungi. This part of the catalog has been carried out with the collaboration of Esther Gaia and Robert Lukin. So this time I will talk to you, and I hope I can represent our results very well. So let's get started. Well, as you know, as you know, fungi represent one of the three major eukaryotic life forms of our planet, besides plants and also animals. Mycology, the study of fungi, was traditionally treated as a branch of botany, but fungi are more closely related to animals than plants. To further complicate matters, as traditionally studied, fungi are not a natural group. Everybody knows that. As the fungal lifestyle evolved several times among eukaryotes, you know? While nearly 99% of all fungi are representatives of the kingdom fungi, fungus-like organisms are also found in various other clades. For example, we find that Oomycota or the egg fungi or water molds, Iphochitridiomycota and Labyrintholomycetes, like slime nets, are part of the SARS supergroup, more related to brown algae and diatoms. Other fungus-like organisms are represented by the myxomycetes that we can find within the Amebozoa, and among other examples. In terms of known species, Animalia has the first place among the 3 large kingdoms with 1.66 million known species, followed by Viridiplanta with at least 315,000 species, and fungi ranked third with 115 species described. Fungi are, of course, the less well-known of these 3 kingdoms, given that estimates predict a much higher number of species. Predictive estimates of global fungal diversity are based on diverse extrapolation methods, being the most common among global fungi plant species area, which oscillates between 6:1 and 10:1, but also taking into account accumulative evidence from cryptic species, as well as data emerging from environmental sequencing studies or metabarcoding. In the history of mycology, there have been very different estimates, as you can see in my screen. The truth is that currently we only know a small proportion of this diversity. There is no doubt that cataloging this unknown diversity is the major challenge for mycology in terms of time and resource, and how to deal with fungi only know from sequence data. And one of the main problems we face is that much of this unknown fungal diversity is expected to be found in tropical regions, such as in Colombia, you know? Colombia is one of the most biodiverse countries on the planet, hosting close to 10% of the diversity in the planet. Colombia is located in the northwest region of South America, possesses a rich complexity of ecological, climatic, biological, and ecosystem components. The country has several areas of high biological diversity, like the Andeans ecosystems, characterized by a significant variety of endemic species, followed by the Amazon rainforest and the humid ecosystems in the Choco biogeographical area. The terrestrial biomes in Colombia have undergone several changes. Right now, 53 of the mainlands is still covered with natural forests. However, one of the most threatened forest ecosystem is the dry forest, remaining around 2% of its original extension. Colombia currently ranked second among the 10 most biodiversity-rich countries in terms of plant and vertebrate species, hosting at least or approximately 28,000 plant species. 24 of them are considered endemic, and more than 1,000 species of plants are currently threatened. The country is ranked first in diversity of birds and orchids, is ranked second in diversity of plants, amphibians, butterflies, fish, also is ranked third in diversity of reptiles and palms, and ranks sixth with 440. However, these listings are usually limited to plants and vertebrates, whereas fungi are rarely included in such comparisons. The current knowledge about the Colombian fungal results from countless expeditions, researchers, national and foreign institutions that have contributed to the development of mycology in Colombia for more than 2 centuries. Summarizing the history of mycological studies in Colombia is not a simple task, since several historical accounts come from extensive great literature and historical archives that are difficult to track down. 19th century studies of the fungi in Colombia started with the Royal Botanical Expedition to New Granada or Nueva Granada, in which they were registered 8 species of Ascomycetes and 6 species of Basidiomycetes. This expedition was followed by many important expeditions until today, and currently are there about 80 Colombia research groups studying fungi nowadays. So the Cool Fungi project represents the first compilation of data on all groups of Colombian fungi into a single resource, including nomenclatural and taxonomic checks. This project resulted in a current total of 7,241 accepted species of fungi for Colombia, encompassing a high diversity of fungal life forms. By itself, these numbers of species is difficult to evaluate, but when put it into a taxonomic and geographic context, it illustrates the current state of knowledge of the Colombian fungi. Colombia's fungus plant species radio currently amounts to about 1 to 3.6, still much lower than radius between 6 to 1 and 10 to 1 obtained from well-studied extratropical areas. In terms of global diversity, Colombia harbors 4.8% of the non-fungal diversity and 7.5% of the non-plant species. Fungi and fungus-like organisms are currently arranged into 64 classes, of which 36 have been reported from Colombia. The remaining 28 classes are species poor, and they potentially can occur in Colombia, but are challenging to detect as they largely represent ecologically hidden microfungi. Among the 36 classes present in Colombia, 11 are overrepresented, as you can see here in gray, compared to global proportions by a factor of up to 6.5. One example of most overrepresented classes is Lecanoromycetes, with a higher number of species. The substance of representation of this class, in particular in Colombia, is due to the fact that this mostly lichen-forming fungi is much better studied than any other larger group of fungi in Colombia. So the observed deviations are clearly based on study bias. Another example of a study bias was given from the data collected by the Cool Fungi project that also showed that in general terms, macrofungi are better represented in our data than microfungi. Certainly, the macrofungi do not escape to the tendency to be the most charismatic and easy to register organisms. This latter information just shows us that knowledge on organismic diversity is unevenly distributed. For example, our compiled data shows that the highest concentration of recorded, for example, rust and smooths and polypores is actually in the Andes region within Colombia. This fact is really not a surprise since taxonomists tend to collect more intensively in the vicinity of their workplace. So areas near important research institutions tend to show a higher concentration of species distribution records, and that occurs certainly in the Andes region. Most of these under-collected regions contain diverse habitats, also suitable for these fungi. So the absence of records indicates a strong sample bias. Naturally, all these gaps knowledge lead us to the question, how many species of fungi can we actually expect in Colombia? Predictive estimates of species richness are naturally speculative, especially in ecologically largely hidden organisms and in groups where taxon concepts have not been fully resolved. However, we made the exercise to propose some predictions of the actual species richness of the Colombian fungi using different approach. Our results show that existing species richness of Colombian fungi oscillate between 27,000 to 318,000 species, depending on the method of extrapolation. Although a reliable estimate of fungal diversity in Colombia remains, of course, speculative, we can safely assume that the predictive figure is perhaps an order of magnitude higher than the currently known species. In the other side, unfortunately, molecular approach to catalog fungi are still limited in Colombia. We perform a structured research in the NCBI gene bank for all countries in the Americas to assess how many accessions of the fungal ITS barcoding marker exist for each country. And we make the same for biosamples. In both cases, United States rank 2 orders of magnitude ahead of Colombia. If we want to fully catalog the diversity of the Colombian fungi, a thorough assessment is needed, including exhaustive molecular studies. So to finish, it's important to remember that cataloging all the species on the planet should be the main goal of biodiversity research. However, discovering and naming species is just part of the challenge. Knowing their ecology and geographic distribution is equally important if we intend to fully understand and preserve Earth's biota. All these efforts require the continued work of trained taxonomists, which continue to be essential assets in the mission to document and understand Colombia's and the world's biodiversity. Well, that is all. Thank you very much. I am going to give the word to Aida right now. I'm going to stop to share my screen. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I was speaking without my microphone. Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Aida Vasco. It's a pleasure to me to be here with you. Thank you, Viviana, and thank you, Esther, for the introduction with all those data. It has been very important for the Colombian community, this project, basically because it came in a special moment. Just like 2 years ago, we start with the Colombian Mycological Association, and we start to meet each other's, know each other's, and start to think how to work as a community. And this project came, and it was the opportunity as well to be together, to compile data, to synthesize them, to have this all this information together, because now we know where are the gaps. We know what do we need to do, where, and I think that this was a very, very great opportunity that they just came in the perfect moment. So as Vivian explained you before, and also Esther, in Colombia, there are people who were using fungi for a while. Yes? There are traditional pre-Hispanic figures in the museums that shows that they were related with the fungi. And this relation is still now with some indigenous communities, some peasants. So they are part of the history and the cultural heritage that we have in the country related with fungi. As Viviana showed you before, we have 200, something happened with my 200, but doesn't matter, of years of history. The first records, they were in this expedition, the Royal Botanical Expedition. At that time, fungi were considered plants. So many of the first studies in the mycology were done by botanists they were working with fungi, but mainly together with the botanists. So we have reports mainly from abroad about the fungi that we have in the country. Another example was this Flora Novogranatensis award with Jerónimo Triana, José Jerónimo Triana, Colombian botanist, and Jules Emile Planchon. And so during this time, like for almost the 1st century, and in the beginning of the 20th century, most of the records and expeditions were done by mycologists from abroad. We will see that in the recent times, Carlos Chardon and Rafael Toro, both were from Puerto Rico, they start, or they were somehow the fathers of the mycology in Colombia. Not only because they collect a lot of material, they were just around the country in some areas, not all. You know that Colombia is so big. I think that you can to see this in the maps that Esther and Viviana presented you before, but also because they train people. So they came here and they were also training Colombian people like Pablo Buritica, that they planted the sport in the country, and the mycology started to be developed also for Colombians. Also, they help to establish the Faculty of Agricultural Science. They were phytopathologists, and also the Plant Health Service. So the phytopathologists started at that time to have a strong development in the country. After him, the country has been still visiting for many mycology colleagues from abroad. So once they were living here, like Ewald Sieverding, he was working and living here for a while, working in arbuscula mycorrhizal, but also Rolf Singer were here, Ken Dumont, Roy Hallin, Greg Mueller that is around, Gaston Guzman, Leif Rivarden, Harry Zipman, and others. I work with macrofungi, so most of my mind is always with the people who is working in this area. But at the same time, the Colombian mycology started to be more developed. In clinical mycology, Alfredo Correa and Alonso Jaramillo, together with, well, more or less at the same time, but in a different moment, Angela Restrepo, that is an amazing scientific woman, an example for all of us here. They start to develop the clinical mycology, Pablo Buritica with the phytopathology, Alvaro Marina Cotes with biological control, Lucia Teortuda that is here in the talk as well. I just saw her in biotechnology, Jaime Aguirre with lichenology, Maria Caridad Cepero, and Marina Restrepo, and others. So the mycology start to grow in this last century with the Colombians as well. And now we have 80 working groups that work in mycology, most of them in the main cities like Bogota, Medellin, and Cali, but there are other areas of the country where the mycology is being developed. The areas are mainly biodiversity and ecology, biotechnology, bioprospecting that is related with biotechnology, clinical mycology, conservation. So I think that we are covering different areas of the mycology, and this is very important because the knowledge is growing, the fungal collections are growing as well. This is also a synthesis that you can find in the chapter later in the book. And this is a synthesis of the fungal collections in Colombia. There are two types of fungal collection, the Fungarium that are usually associated with herbarium, and a culture collection or strain collection. Similar that it's happening with the groups. Most of the collections are where the groups are, is logical, like in Antioquia, Bogota, and Cali. Sorry that I start with Antioquia because I am in Antioquia right now. Important collection, there are several, depends on the group of fungi, but the important is that now we are talking about bioeconomy, to try to develop countries, but at the same time be like responsible with the environment, and the microbes have become important for this develop, for this economical develop of these countries. And I think that most of scientifics and research are now look to the fungi. That's why in the last years, the collection has grown as well. There are many, many of more collections, mainly strain collections that have been registered in the last 10 years in the country. But the collections are broad, because I start my part saying that for a long time, the surveys and the exploration was done by external people from mycological researchers from other countries. Here in this map, I was expecting that maybe the dark color could be in the United States or maybe Europe. And actually it surprised me that they were in Brazil. So I went to the data and result that there is a big collection of phytopathogenic fungi collected in Colombia and Brazil, one collection in Brazil. So yeah, we are learning as well where are our collections, and also about who were working in these projects. So indeed, we have a lot of collections in Europe as well. And here is the number of specimens. Most of the specimens are, as I told you before, in Brazil, a number of species, and it changed a little bit. Here in France, there is a big collection as well, and now most of those collections are on a species level. UK have collections as well in Kew Garden and another, mainly the Kew Gardens. And in these Nordic countries are collections too, because Ray Barden was here. So Leif was here collecting, so that's why there are records there. The Colombian collections, I bring here just few. One very, very important, is a collection of phytopathogenic fungi, is in the Universidad Nacional in Medellin. This collection was started by Pablo Buritica. He was a specialist in uredinals, and now is under this Mauricio Salazar command. They have near 8,000 collections, 150 type specimens, and the historical collection of Chardonnay Toro are there. Other very important collection is the Hungario at the Universidad de Antioquia. Indeed, they have almost 13,000 macrofungi and no-lichenized and 3,000 lichens. This collection is the biggest macrofungal collection in the country, but even though they need more, okay, not all the collections at the species level is logical. We don't have that many specialists in the country. We are, like, the community is growing, but we are still few, so only 45% of the collections are identified at the species level. So if you are interested, you are welcome to help us to grow in this number, because we need that in these boxes we will have several new species for sure. In the collection, we have 79 type specimens and also some collections of amoeboid Myxomycetes. So it's the most important collection in the country. There is another collection, more because because the historical collection that that are there, that is the Herbario Nacional Colombiano. Unfortunately, this collection has not had a mycological curator, a mycologist curator, and even, for example, this is the catalog, the online catalog. They do not include neither the fungus, and they have a lot of collections. There is other collection. There is a big collection of lichens in the Universidad Distrital, also very important. In Kew, I just bring this because, okay, we are talking with the British Society. So in Kew Gardens, they have also a collection from Colombia. 82, we found it. 10 are types. From these 10 types, 6 were collected by Alexander von Humboldt. So there are historical collections as well, as for example, Trametes pavonia and Dicosporidium nigrocintum. Conservation. This book and this work give us also the opportunity to to have a look about what have been done about fungal conservation. It has not been that done that much yet. We are just starting with this duty, mainly because we have a lot of gaps of information, and also because fungi are not explicitly included in the national legislation. So we are not, the fungi are not included or part of the national surveys or conservation plans. So we are just now starting to evaluate or assess the level of threats of the species, and some of the mycologists in the Colombian community are now part of the IUCN Species Commission. So we are just like very hardly starting working on that, and together with some colleagues like Greg Mueller. Here's some data. So already there are 22 species distributed in Colombia that have been published in the red list. 5% cataloged as critical endangered, 18 as a vulnerable, 27 near threat, 41 less concerned. So this is more or less the state of this evaluation. Also, just recently, it was a national evaluation for lichenicidal fungi. It was made led by the Humboldt, but also all the lichenology Colombian community participate on that, and I think that is very important. And they evaluate 151 species. What happened with the conservation? I will show you so fast. This is the state of the knowledge. We say that most of the species that we know are in the Andean region. These are the species that has been evaluated recently, 150 more or less. Also in the area where we have been working harder, but those red colors are showing where the deforestation are coming, and are coming quite fast. So this is quite sad, because the areas where we have less data are the areas that they are getting deforested so fast. So we need to do some effort, that there are conclusions in some of the chapters. We need the explicit recognition of fungi as major components of the country biodiversity, inclusion of the fungi in surveys and inventories, try to fill the gaps, refine curation and the curation of biological collections, and train mycologists. All the information that we present you today is in the chapter, in the book, in the Catalogue of Fungi of Colombia. As Esther told you before, the book will have 16 chapters. Some are introductory, but on those you can see the history of the mycology in Colombia, diversity of different groups, biogeography data, ecology, use of fungi, biotechnology, potential, conservation, and collections. And at the end, and I think that is very, very important, is the annotated checklist. This book was, or all this work, as Esther explained you before, was framed in the project, but the mycologists in Colombia, they accepted to work very active in the project as well, not only giving data, but also analyzing, synthesizing the information, and then writing the chapters. In total, the book are having 40 authors chapters. 31 of them are Colombians, 9 are international collaborators. It's very important because we are always working with collaborators like Robert, like Greg Mueller, like Mike Pipperbring, and others. And from all other authors, 32, and Esther, of course. From all authors, 32 are mycologists, and of those, of this number, 27 from Colombia. And so I think that it was a huge effort, and I am very happy to be part of them, and thanks to the project at Mauricio for this idea. And the foreword was wrote by Juliana Furci from Fungi Foundation. She was one of the most defender of fungi. I think that most of you have heard about her. And at the end, the information of each species will be presented in this format. So we will have the taxonomy, the name with the authors, the index fungorum code, data about habit, habitat, trophic mode, origin, distribution, elevation, departments in Colombia where the species are, conservation status, and other information. Also, the book we will have some index that I think that is important to frame the information, and the very important is this QR code. The QR code is a connection with the portal, with the site, with the Cold Fungi site. So I will try to do the exercise with you. So I will read this QR code now, and this will send us to the Cold Fungi site. So the Cold Fungi site was launched in July, as Esther said before. This is the presentation. So when you click or you take a picture in the QR, they will connect you directly to the page of the species in the Cold Fungi portal. Here you can see the information, the taxonomic information of the species, when it has been found, and some pictures. Many species are not having pictures yet, so if you have wonderful pictures of Colombian species, you are welcome to share it for this portal. It will be very important because it will be an important tool, not for everybody in the country, but also for the international community. There are some data like description, images, distribution, other data, literature related, and sources. So here, for example, we see that this species is having tropical distribution in Colombia, where in Colombia, the data about the gills, this information was taken from Fungild, from this database. Different pictures that they will help you for the identification. A map of distribution is a broad map. It's only showing you the countries where the species is present. Other data linked with other sources, and the literature when you can find information about these species. Here in this tag, you can look for other species, for example, Macrolepiota colombiana, another species described from Colombia. Here is a first overview, then you click there, and the information of the species. In this case, there are more information, and look, they have, in some cases, you can see like common names, uses. This species is used as food for peasants in Boyacá, some recipes, and other extra information. So I think that is a big summary. So it's a summary of this project, and I wanted to say thank you again, all of you, to be here, and I hope that you will check later the book, and you will use a lot all this information compiled in this project. Thank you so much.
Well, I'm sure everyone agreed that was a fantastic set of talks and a really exciting addition to the BMS Talk series. I'm absolutely amazed, I'm inspired, and I can't wait to read the book. Now we have, arguably the best part, the part of questions, where we get to find out more. So any questions into the chat, and I'll read them out as they come along. in the meantime, two, I suppose as start off questions. Obviously, we've had a year and a half of lockdowns. How have you found collaborating on such a big project and such a outdoorsy project without the benefit of free travel?
Well, unfortunately, Nathan, the field work had to be cancelled because of COVID lockdowns. They were scheduled for last year, and unfortunately, we didn't have the opportunity to go. There was one first expedition that happened before, but we haven't managed to organize the field trips for fungi, unfortunately. That was yeah, that was very sad.
That's a shame. We've got a question from Emma, who is enthusiastic as I am, saying, how can people get involved, submit images or data to the Col Fungi website?
So maybe they could get in contact with me, and then I will redirect them to the people that are in charge of the web developers and the people that are working with the database. Yeah, I think that would be the easiest.
Fantastic. We have a comment from Greg Miller, says, great talk, very impressive collaboration and collection of data, really sets the stage for further work, which is, I'm sure how we all feel, really. It's absolutely amazing.
Yes, I agree with Greg. I think that this is the most important of this work. It was the first time that we could compile and synthesize all this information, and now we know where to move. I think that it was very, very important for us.
Fantastic. We've got a question from CQ Gill. What is your concept about fungi as commercial products? Anyone interested in help with the development of industry in Colombia?
Is Mauricio around in here? I saw him earlier, because I think Mauricio might be more better informed, because he's done the same for plants, and they are more advanced with plants, and they have all the elements for the BCN in place. We haven't done much for fungi. As I mentioned earlier, we have been gathering all the ethnomycological information that was, again, scattered, but there's not the connection made yet for product development and connection between bioproducts and the market. But I know that Mauricio has this in place for plants. They are much more advanced in that step. So I don't know if Mauricio wants to add anything into that.
Yes. Hi, Esther. I don't know if you can listen to me now.
Yeah.
Excellent. So, well, congratulations for the fantastic talks, and thank you very much to everybody attending these conferences. Yes, replying to that question, we do include fungi in the VCN, and so they are at the same level of plants. So the VCN will allow to add any product based on native fungi of Colombia, if they are, of course, allowed to be commercialized. So products that are under any threat category or listed in CITES won't be possible to advertise through the VCN. Otherwise, for instance, if there's any development or any natural ingredient produced out of a fungi of Colombia, people will be able to advertise their products. They will be able to link the product to the species profile in Col Fungi, and also interested people would be able to consume or to contact the people offering the products. So that's one thing. The other thing is that we have a mechanism in place, going back to one of the questions, to actually receive contributions from people interested in sharing their images. So as Esther suggested, please send us or send Esther an email, and we will provide all the information. We keep the copyright information so you don't lose the ownership of the image, and we will recognize the authorship in the images. But yes, for us, it's very important to illustrate all the species of fungi, and we have discovered that we still we are lacking a lot of material in the portal. So welcome any contribution. If you have good photographic material, it doesn't need to be photographs taken in Colombia, but species found in Colombia. So the idea is to illustrate the species, not just the individuals that you might find in Colombia.
Maybe I will, okay, sorry, Mauricio, sorry, pardon.
No, sorry, back to you. And I'm here in case if you need anything.
Okay. No, because about this question of commercialization of fungi and products, I know that Lucia Teortua is here, and she has been working in developing products in biotechnologies. I think that she can really say us or tell us how it's working in Colombia, because I know that there are too many difficulties. So we have the sources, the natural sources, but this next step to go to the commercialization is quite difficult. I don't know if Lucia want to join us a little bit. Oh,
hello.
Yeah. Hola.
Everybody. Thank you very much. Well, working in Colombia with industry is not easy. You have to capture their attention in order that they are ready to support your research. But we were very lucky because we have at least several companies working with us. One of them at the moment is a banana company that has a lot of problems with cigatoca negra, a lot of fungal diseases. So we are working in proteomics, taking proteins profiles to control the disease with very, very good success. Also, we have a patent because we were able to make a screening of proteins using LADs. LADs, well-length, are able to generate qualitative and quantitative expression of proteins differentially. It was very useful. So that gives us the opportunity to produce a certain kind of proteins and enzymes, which because I think really that the work in fungal disease or pathogens are enzymes that break the different parts of the pathogens. I mean, it's kind of look, you call site control, just a special way of control of pathogens. So we're very lucky working with the banana company, but also we were working with a cosmetic company and also with food company. So not easy, but it works. Thank you.
Also, Aida, perhaps I would like to add that because of the difficulties of developing products based on Colombian biodiversity, we developed a guide to know the step-by-step to how to commercialize any product out of plants, wild species of plants and fungi. The guide is available in the website that Esther shown, and actually Esther quickly showed a slide of the guide. So it's, if you go to redin-colombia.org, you will see the guide. It's a book. Also, we built a bot, a server bot that would guide any user to the requirements that they need to, for instance, if they want to sell edible fungi, what do they need to get all the permits? Or if they want to make cosmetics out of fungi, what do they have to do in terms of the Colombian regulations? Or if they want to export these products to the European Union, what do they have to do? So anyone interested, please go and check the website. Is reading-colombia.org. Probably Camila, if you can add that to the chat, and we will also add the link to the guide.
Very important source of information, because now with the association, there are too many people from companies or from a small project that they have approached us asking for the tramitology, because I think that there is not very clear, and the INVIMA and some special national permits are quite complicated because they don't understand what are fungi. But I think that this tool will be very important. We will help sharing this information as well. Thank you.
Yes, if from the BMS, if you can retweet some of these links, might be really useful, because you reach much more people. That would be very, very useful.
Are there any more? Oh, fantastic. We have a question from Gary Easton, who asks, how do you balance the conservation of rare fungi with their use in commercial products, i.e. their overuse?
I think that we don't have this experience yet. Okay, rare fungi, we have a lot. Some of them are used by local people like indigenous or peasant people, but I think that they are not in this step of the commercialization yet. We will see it in the future, and I think that in the near future. But I don't know, Mauricio, you have heard some experience, but as far as I know, okay, local experience is, for example, with some restaurants in Bogota and in Nariño, in the south of Colombia, they are using like local mushrooms in the seasons to cook special dishes. But I don't think that the amount of fungi that they are using is a lot. I don't think that these are net of commercialization like very developed. Like, for example, it's happened in Mexico with the hunters, like the intermedia markets and the sellers. I don't think that is happening now here, but we will know. I don't know, because now many people is talking about fungi. In the last year, my family, everybody knows about fungi, is asking, they wanted to try it. So we don't know how this boom, or what this boom is gonna do with the dynamics that we used to have. So yeah, I don't know, but I think that we don't have this experience yet.
Yes, I just would like to add that yes, this project is providing scientific information and the tools to boost Colombian bioeconomy based on the sustainable use of its biodiversity, such as the VCN, the catalogues, etc. But we are not a regulatory body. So the regulation of the overuse of the products will have to come to the local authorities. So with that, we've been, first we involved the Humboldt Institute, which is a national government institution in charge of studying Colombian biodiversity, but also we've been involving in the discussions different ministries that ultimately will have to be will have to jump in the in monitoring how Colombian biodiversity is used. Good news, excellent news, I would say, is that a couple of months ago, and please you tell me because I don't know many examples, the Colombian president signed a decree for the first time allowing the utilization of wild species commercially, of course, under the regulations of the country. So basically, it's been promoted officially, the sustainable use of Colombian wild species. But of course, we need to speed up the monitoring processes from the local authorities. So as Aida said, we still don't have data for fungi, but hopefully we will have soon.
Fantastic. We have a hand up from Lucia. Would you like to unmute? No.
Sorry.
That's all right, wonderful.
Okay, I have my phone close. Okay, in Colombia, there are little startups working with fungi, producing fungi for commercial purpose. It's a joint generation of students that get out of the university and start up a new company. They are just starting, so it's not so big, but it's like move a new adventure in Colombia. This is very important if we want to develop the bioeconomy of the fungi, because there are many possibilities to work with fungi, not only edibles, but medicinals, also to control the pathogens, but also for nutraceuticals, for food, and other materials, because this is a possibility to generate new materials with fungi, as in Indonesia is doing now with taking different kind of quality biomass of fungi to produce biomaterials for commercial purpose. So I believe that it's open for us and new opportunities, especially with because fungi are an arsenal of enzymes. This is the nature enzymes producers. So enzymes are very important for the industrial purpose and also for medicinal purpose. So I believe that we have to engage seriously, not only with the collection, conservation, but also to give value to the biodiversity and to improve our bioeconomy, taking these products as a part of our diversification of our economy. Thank you.
In that note, I wanted to add that while doing some research, I found that Mexico actually is the main producer of mushrooms, for edible mushrooms, for the whole Latin America. And I found that I can't remember there was a figure in terms of number of tons and pesos, but I thought we were already involved in the project. And I thought, hey, in the next few years, Colombia should be able to be at the top of the market, and especially if you have access to wild mushrooms that can be cultivated, and that actually they have the added value of being from Colombia. That would be fantastic. But yeah, right now Mexico is beating us. Just on a comic note.
Mauricio?
Yes,
Okay.
so that's very interesting, and Lucia, thank you very much for that information. I think this is what we need. Just wanted to tell you what we envision for the VCN. Probably many of you know portals such as eBay or Gumtree or Craigslist, where everybody can offer their products. Of course, if you are gonna sell a chair, you need to create your post, your ad in the category of furniture, for instance. in the same way, that's how the VCN is going to work. So you need to say, okay, I have a product that is a wild mushroom, edible mushroom. So I need to pick the species, and I linked to the species in Fungi. And I describe my product. It's all free, and then my product will be advertised. There's a taxonomic backbone behind, and there's a classification of products. There's a controlled vocabulary, everything free, everything available online. The transaction, so the payment is not done in the portal, but you can contact the person, the provider, or you can also make an offer. Hey, I am a chef in Bogota, and I'm looking for wild mushrooms from this area that you consume. And that's how the VCN might work. And that's why it can perfectly work for fungi, and not just in Colombia, but it will be available to actually any user, even from Europe. You will be able to post your interest to purchase a product from Colombian Fungi, for instance.
Fantastic. I think that seems a fantastic point to end the talk on, the image of a fungal eBay. So I'm going to thank our speakers, Esther, Ida, and have we lost someone? We have, Viviana is there. Esther, Ida, and Viviana once more. Thank you for speaking, and I'm going to pass over to Esther just to say for any closing messages that I'd like to pass on.
I just want to say thank you for listening to us and for getting excited, as I hope as excited as we are. And yeah, as I said earlier, just please contact us if you are interested. And just to add, that is I think it was Greg that mentioned that earlier, that for me the most fantastic thing in this project is this international collaboration, and the fact that all mycologists came together and work for the project. And I think that for me that's very fulfilling, even at the other side of the ocean. Thank you.
Well, thank you everyone for attending, and I look forward to seeing you next month. Goodbye.